With over 155,000 of these Crosstreks sold in 2022, this is their best-selling vehicle in their lineup. And for 2024, Subaru has given a nice facelift and a nice update to this best-selling vehicle. So today we're going to take a look at this Crosstrek Sport we have with us and see all that's new and all that they have to offer. Starting off in the front end, you can see some major changes coming for the 2024 model year. Let's start off with this grille. This grille is an all new design. The old grille used to have kind of a bordered design that closed off the grille from the rest of the front bumper design. This flows seamlessly due in part by this gloss black bar that flows from headlight to headlight through the Subaru logo, and it really just ties everything together. Below we have a nice painted section that's separating the top grille from the lower grille. Now this lower part of the front fascia is a textured plastic. Now usually I would squawk about it being a textured plastic and not paint matched, but since this is catered towards the off-road enthusiast, and if you are utilizing the 18 degrees of approach angle, you don't want to be scratching or chipping your paint on your lower lip. Talking about the headlights, we do have full LED headlights as well as LED fog lamps down below. The headlights do come standard on all trims of the Subaru Crosstrek, but the LED fog lamps don't come standard on everything. It's everything but the base, so base does not get the LED fog lamps. Moving down the side of the vehicle, you can see that this plastic cladding continues. This is the same textured plastic you find in the front, and that continues all the way down the side of the vehicle and to the rear. This plastic cladding is attached to this aluminum bumper that Subaru says is for weight savings. You can hear the difference. Moving down below, you can see we have this new alloy wheel that has a nice angular design. This is an 18-inch wheel that Subaru says resembles a gear on a bicycle. I don't quite see it, but it's to pay homage to some of the activities that Crosstrek owners may be doing with their vehicle. And wrapping this wheel is a Falken all-season tire to help get that customer off-road a little bit. So this is a 225/55 R18 Falken all-season tire that should help with that off-road capability. Moving on inside of the wheel and tire setup, we have some softer suspension for that 2024 year. Now Subaru says that is to help with on-road and off-road performance, and that suspension will get you 8.7 inches of ground clearance. Now if you want more ground clearance, you can check out the Crosstrek Wilderness that has 9.3 inches of ground clearance. With the wheelbase of 105.1 inches, this has a very similar, if not the same exact wheelbase as some of its competitors. For example, the Bronco Sport has the same exact wheelbase at 105.1 inches. But talking about overall length, this Crosstrek Sport is over 5 inches longer than that Bronco Sport. Talking about weight, the base curb weight for the Crosstrek Sport is just over 3,300 pounds, and it can be found a little bit less on the base model as well as a little bit more than 3,300 pounds on that Limited. Taking a look at the overall side profile of this vehicle, it is an attractive profile. So we have a Sport logo down here with that yellow accents, that same gold yellowish trim that we found in the front that continues throughout the vehicle down the side running boards. An overall roof height of 63 inches. That gives this one of the lowest roof heights in this segment, and that's great for loading things on and taking things off the top of the vehicle. And that's including these roof rails. Now these roof rails do come standard on all trims except for that base. The base doesn't get the luxury of these, but the Sport, the Limited, and the Premium all get these nice aerodynamic black roof rails. These roof rails do have a static load rating, so you can't be jumping up and down on it, but a static load rating of 700 pounds, which is plenty of weight rating to get kayaks, rooftop tents, bikes, things of that nature on top. And since it does have a low roof height, it's going to be a lot easier than some other competitors in this subcompact SUV segment. In the rear, we have a redesign as well as a redesigned taillight. Now these taillights are gorgeous looking in my personal opinion, but I just don't understand why Subaru can't go full LED taillight since they went full LED headlight. Now these do have an LED brake light here, but the blinker and the reverse light is still the old school incandescent. Up top, we get a gloss black lid spoiler. We have heated rear glass, automatic wiper. Down below, we have a simulated diffuser that gives us over 30 inches of departure angle. And this plastic cladding wraps around here, and we have more yellow accents as well as a big red deflector. So same plastic textured cladding that wraps all the way around to the other side, these yellow accent marks, and then you can tell this is a Sport also by the yellow Sport badge that is underneath the Crosstrek. Now opening the rear hatch, press that and it is still manual. Now it does have dampers or hydraulic shocks. We have to manually close it as well. Under the hood, we have a 2.5 liter flat 4 boxer engine that produces 182 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. That's 30 more horsepower and 33 more pound-feet of torque over the outgoing or the 2 liter that you can find in the lower trim of this 2024 Crosstrek. Now, even though this is a bigger engine, this is still paired to the same CVT transmission throughout the lineup, but this does have an 8-speed simulated paddle shifter that is pretty fun in my opinion and useful in some situations. On the driver's side door panel, we have quite a few different materials. Starting off, we have this cloth with this yellow contrast stitching. Below that, we have a very plasticky feeling leather wrapped armrest, same yellow contrast stitching outlining that fake seam right there. And then the rest of it is hard touch plastic, as well as this wrapped plastic that simulates carbon fiber. We have one touch auto driver's window, passenger's window, but manual windows in the back. We have our window lock, mirror adjustment, lock, unlock, and then down below, more hard touch plastic. In front of the cup holder, we have our speaker grill. Now this does have a 6-speaker system inside this trim. This does not get the option of that Harman Kardon 10-speaker system that the Limited does. For the seats, we have what they call the sport upholstery. So we have that yellow carried in from the outside to the inside, as well as that contrast stitching found on the armrest, the door panels. This is supposed to be the same yellow, but since this is on this sport upholstery or this fabric, it just looks like an off yellow, like a kind of a pale yellow, and just looks odd on the seat bolstering. On the center, we do have this TriStar design imprinted on the fabric itself. In the front, you're going to find 42.9 inches of legroom and 38.7 inches of headroom, and that's with the moonroof. Now, I find that to be plenty of space for someone my size. I am 6'1", legs torso proportionate, and with this wheel being able to telescope in and out, as well as tilt up and down, and having this 10-way power adjustable seat that is part of that 22 package that is selected on this vehicle. We have 2-way lumbar adjustment, 10-way power seats, but that passenger side does not get the same treatment. That is a fully manual seat. Now, what is that 22 package I mentioned? The 22 package, or what Subaru calls the 22, is a 10-way power adjustable seat with 2-way lumbar, a moonroof, as well as blind spot detection and rear cross traffic alert. That package will set you back $1,920 in total. Although I wish this had leather seats, I do have heated seats, which come standard on the Limited as well as the Sport as part of the all-weather package. So the all-weather package comes standard on the Sport and the Limited, and that gets you heated seats, heated windshield wipers, as well as heated side mirrors. In the rear, we have 36.5 inches of legroom and 38 inches of headroom. Now, this front seat is set to where I would be comfortable driving. So if you had someone similar size in the rear, their knees are going to be eating the back of the driver's seat. Now, if you man sprout a little bit and go off to the side, you are going to clear because there is a concave to the back of the driver's seat. Now, headroom, that is not great, I'll tell you that much. You can't really see it from there because it's dark and my head is pretty much on the roof. I only have maybe an inch or so, but if I turn my head at all, it hits this curvature where this handle is or where the body line goes. So not a lot of headroom, not a lot of legroom. So as a bigger guy, it's going to be a little bit tough. Another thing to mention is the recline on the back of the seat is not very great. So you're very up and down, and especially if you scoot all the way back, very proper, you're going to be real up and down. If you scoot down a little bit, again, you're going to be eating the back of that seat. And the seat bottom doesn't really cradle you too much. It cuts off right about halfway down my hamstring. So there's not a lot of support, so you're really sitting on your tailbone. We do not have any HVAC controls or vents for the rear passengers, but we do have charging down below. So we have a 3 amp USB-C or a 2.4 amp USB-A. The center console, or the material that is made up of, is a hard touch plastic. It is all textured, so it looks nice, but definitely feels cheap. Below that, we do have a middle hump for those drivetrain components to run through, since this is all-wheel drive. On the passenger side, we do have a pocket or a cubby behind the seat for storage. Pretty tight, pretty small, so you're not going to fit 2 large objects in there. On the driver's side, we do not have that luxury. There is no pocket or no cubby on that side, which is a little odd, but nice to have one on the passenger side at least. If we open up the rear hatch in the rear cargo area, we have 19.9 cubic feet of storage, and we have a nice roll-out cargo cover that is easily removable. If you just press to one side, it's spring-loaded, pops out real nice and easy. So 19.9 cubic feet of storage capacity back here. If you fold down the 60/40 split rear seats. We have 54.7, almost 55 cubic feet of storage behind the front seats if we fold down the rear. In the rear cargo area, we have a nice Crosstrek branded mat that is easily removable. It's flexible. Putting it back in there protects your carpet, but it is a nice little theme here. We have a river theme with little rocks here. And then right here on this tailgate protector, we have mountains, so some nice little Easter egg type stuff. Now below this cargo mat, we have our temporary spare tire. This is not a full-size spare tire, so it's just temporary use, or obviously all spares are, but not a full-size spare, so that's a compromise. We have a screwdriver, a jack, we have our tow hook, as well as our tire irons. On the sides, we have lights with little switches that come on, the warm colored light. Down below, we have some cup holders and storage off to the side. And that's just about the size of an Nalgene bottle, and I'm assuming that's probably what Subaru is going for. And a little bit more storage off to the side if we lift up this rear floor. In front of the mirror, you see this big clump of plastic. This has a few cameras in it, which is your Subaru eyesight. That's standard on all trims. That gets you your adaptive cruise control, lane centering, pre-collision braking, lane departure warning, as well as your lane keep assist. For the center console, we do have this leather type material with this contrasted yellow stitching. Opening up the center console, it is very basic in here. No outlets, no lights, no nothing. Very basic. It is nice and deep. You could probably fit a half gallon of milk in there. Closing that, we have a nice little cubby that doesn't quite fit an iPhone 13 Pro or Max or whatever these are called. We have a 12-volt outlet here, 2 cup holders with removable little donuts. So if you want them a little deeper or a little shallower, insert or remove those. Electronic parking brake. We have a 2-way heated seat for driver and passenger, high, low. Physical buttons instead of on the screen, which is real nice. A piano black surrounding this leather wrapped shift knob, park, reverse, neutral. And then if you shift over to manual, you can utilize those paddle shifters on the back. In front of this leather wrapped shift selector, we do have a nice wide Qi wireless charger. Set my phone on there. This is a 13 Pro Max, so nice and wide. Above that, we have our 11.6-inch infotainment. This is a tablet style display. It's a little odd shaped, but it has a lot of information and sometimes can get a little bit cluttered. So let's go through this a little bit. So down below, you have your permanent HVAC control. So this always stays here. Your on and off, your fan speed up and down. If you click that, it brings up your climate control menu, and you can do all of your settings from here. What's nice is you still have physical buttons for your temperature up and your temperature down, your windshield defrost front and rear. Your tune knob is still there, volume knob still there, and your hazard lights button is still there. Now going through this real quick, this does have Apple CarPlay, wireless Apple CarPlay, as well as wireless Android Auto. Now going through here, selecting something, it's not the quickest system. It can be laggy at times, or maybe sometimes not even open up an app that you click on. Up top, you do have a banner that has some information that's selectable. So you have your outside temperature and your time, 8:26 p.m. and then a banner that you can select your information. So X mode settings, go back, you have your weather forecast, your temperatures of all different things, oil temp, water temp, average speed, Apple CarPlay, and that's about it. This does have the dual function X mode that comes standard with the Sport and the Limited. That does get you the deep snow and mud, as well as the snow and dirt that comes standard. And what the X mode does is just changes your traction control and your torque vectoring, and just lets you have more wheel spin or less wheel spin depending on what X mode setting you are on. There's plenty of videos online if you want a more in-depth explanation of what X mode is. But moving on, our gauge cluster still has analog gauges for your tachometer as well as your speedometer, gas gauge, as well as your coolant temperature. Now the center section is a 4.2-inch LCD display that displays some of your information as seen below. On our steering wheel, we have quite a few different buttons, so let's quickly go over these. On the back of the leather wrapped wheel, we have our paddle shifters, we have our track forward, track backwards, our source button. You press that, it brings up your information on your center display on your gauge cluster, information up, information down, and it only changes the top portion of that small little center screen, and that just gets you some different information like miles per gallon, trip analytics, tire pressure, or what type of music is playing. We have a lot of our phone controls, our talk to our vehicle control, volume down, volume up. On the right side, we have a lot of our adaptive cruise control, and you'll be able to see on the front right here on this center display on the gauge cluster is where it's going to display what you have enabled. So right here, you press this, and that brings up your cruise control. You'd set it by pressing up on this selector here, and this changes your follow distance. So you have 3 bars. You can be 3 bars away or a set amount of distance away, and it goes back from there. Press down, press up, following distance. And this button here is your lane keep assist. So you press that and it kind of drives for you. It's not driving for you, it's not autonomous, but it is assisting you. Down below you have your SI drive, so you press that. Center section is our horn, even down here. Off to the side here we have not many buttons, but just our display brightness, event, on and off. And the wheel is leather wrapped and it has nice contrast stitching on the inside. This is a push button start, so let's start this thing up and go for a drive. So starting off with the 0 to 60, it is rated at around 7.6 seconds to 60. And I measured anywhere from 7.6 to 8, just depending on the surface of the road and if there's any incline or decline. Although 7.6 seconds to 60 is not super impressive in today's time, once it gets up in the higher RPMs and going a little bit faster about highway speeds, it does pull pretty good, and that CVT stays up in the RPM range where it really performs well. Now for braking, I have not measured a 60 to 0 myself as we usually rate, but Car and Driver did do a 70 to 0, and they measured at 172 feet to come to a complete stop. Now since I didn't measure it, take with that what you will, but from 70 to 0, the car stopped in 172 feet. So I can't really tell if that's good or bad since we usually measure from 60, but take that information and run with it. I'm rating the C+ on handling because it does have that softer suspension for the 2024 model. Although it is a stiffer chassis and a little bit lighter, the suspension really makes it seem like it floats around and definitely has a lot of body sway to it. This does have the dual pinion WRX electronic power steering rack that does make it very snappy and true feeling, especially at highway speeds. It's very stiff. But if you do go into a corner with some speed and try to pull through the corner, it does feel like the vehicle leans over a lot. So steering feels great. Handling overall definitely could be improved. Now I know this isn't a track car, but I do believe that they could have done a little bit better with the handling. I know this isn't a handling vehicle, but in the class, the Bronco Sport, in my opinion, handled a little bit better. And that's going to be a controversial opinion, but I think the Bronco Sport, at least the Bronco Sport Badlands or the Heritage like I drove, felt like it handled a little bit better. Where that soft suspension takes away from the handling, it definitely adds to the ride quality. Going over Snoqualmie Pass, going over to the east side of the state, there are some pretty massive potholes and cracks in the road just from the changing weather here in the Pacific Northwest. And I noticed that when going over those, especially with these all-season tires that are on this sport trim, it definitely soaks up all of the imperfections in the road and it makes the ride quality pretty good. For 2024, Subaru really focused on reducing the in-cabin noise, especially engine noise. And they say it's almost 20% quieter in-cabin with all new engine mounts and mounting hardware under the hood for all sorts of different things that are mounted under there. So 20% quieter, that's a big claim. And I riding in this about 400 miles this last weekend, I could say that I do notice a pretty big improvement over some older, not last year's, but some older Crosstreks. Obviously, as time goes on, materials get better and build quality gets a little bit better. But yeah, 20% is a big claim, but I could see that being a very good possibility. So yeah, Subaru claims 20% better engine noise reduction in cabin, and that's where I rate this a B- for the in-cabin noise. Now rating this a B- does leave room for improvement, but it puts it pretty high up with the competitors when talking about in-cabin noise. Now, in terms of pricing for the Crosstrek, if you're looking to get into a Crosstrek and you don't want to spend top dollar, you can hop into the base trim that'll set you back at $26,290. Now, if you do want to spend some coin and you want to hop into the most expensive trim level, that'll set you back $33,290, and that is to get you into the Wilderness trim. Now, that is the most off-road capable top trim for the Crosstrek lineup, and that is available now as of time of filming. Earlier, it wasn't available, but it is now available to the public. Now that'll set you back $33,290, and then if you option it correctly, it can actually go all the way up to around $37,000, so quite a bit of money. If you're looking to get into the Sport like we have shown here, the entry price for that is $30,290, again including destination and shipping. Now where does this pricing for the Crosstrek lineup compare to some of the other vehicles in this class? I went ahead and picked 2 other vehicles that I thought would be a good competitor to this price-wise, and that is the Jeep Compass and the Mazda CX-30. Now, if you want to get into the Jeep Compass, you can go for their base trim level, which is going to be their sport trim, and that'll set you back $29,995. and that goes all the way up into the top trim, which is their high altitude, which will set you back $40,835. Now the trim level of the Compass that is going to compare directly to the Crosstrek Sport or the Crosstrek Wilderness and off-road capability and pricing wise is going to be the Compass Trailhawk. Now that'll set you back just over $38,000, and that'll get you the most off-road capability in the Compass lineup. Now the Compass offers 200 horsepower all throughout the lineup, 8-speed automatic all throughout the lineup, and also a 20-to-1 low crawl ratio in that said Trailhawk. Now if you're looking for an off-road capable competitor in this class, the Compass is going to be one to consider. The other one to consider is going to be the Mazda CX-30. If you want to get into a CX-30, you can go for their 2.5S trim level. That'll set you back $26,370, and that will be the lower horsepower option of the two options, which is 191 horsepower. That is their non-turbo 2.5 liter motor. Or you can go all the way up until their Turbo Premium Plus model. That'll set you back $38,625, and that will get you 250 horsepower. Now, like I mentioned, the CX-30 will not have an off-road specific trim, so the off-road capability will be less than the Crosstrek or the Jeep Compass. But what the CX-30 will offer is a little bit more of a driver's car on-road rather than off-road like the two other options. So at the end of the day, it is all about what you are looking for. If you're looking for an off-road capable vehicle, obviously the Crosstrek Sport is going to have some features that will work for you, like X mode, all-wheel drive is standard, and that CVT transmission can be helpful off-road. But if you are looking for a more on-road vehicle, the CX-30 is a good option for you. The Subaru Crosstrek Sport offers a lot of great features as standard, such as all-wheel drive, X mode, steering responsive LED headlights that are standard throughout the trim levels, as well as the Subaru EyeSight, again, that is standard throughout all trim levels. That gets you adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, lane centering, as well as pre-collision braking and things of that sort. So a lot of great things as standard, and that's just a couple of them. Now for the good of the Crosstrek Sport, and that's going to be the interior comfort or the interior seating options, and that is only going to be a premium cloth in the Subaru Crosstrek Sport. There is no leather option for the Sport trim level. You have to go up to the Limited in order to get the leather trimmed interior. Overall, the seat comfort is very good, and I do find that it is comfortable enough for me on a longer road trip over the mountains, 300, 400, 500 miles if so be. But I would like to see a leather option for some lower trim levels other than the Limited. So I'm going to put that in the good area. Now, what do I find just okay for the Crosstrek Sport? That's going to be the 11.6 inch infotainment screen. Yes, it is massive at 11.6 inches, but it is vertical instead of horizontal. Horizontal is a lot more ergonomical in my opinion, and I like the landscape of it rather than vertical. And I do find that the operating system that is ran on the Crosstrek or in the Subaru system is quite cluttered depending on what screen you're on. Now, CarPlay works just as normal, but there's some things that you cannot get rid of on the screen, and it all just kind of gets jumbled up in my eye. Some people might find it a little more attractive than I do, but I do find that the operating system can be clunky as well as cluttered at times. Now, something I'm not a huge fan of on the Crosstrek lineup, not only the Crosstrek Sport, but all trim levels, is the lack of an option for a turbocharged motor. Now, even from the base all the way up to the Wilderness, it's a big price difference, and you only get that one engine and transmission option. I really wish that the base they could give you an option of upgrading to a bigger motor, or at the Wilderness or the Limited, you get an option for a turbocharged motor giving you more horsepower. It seems like the class is kind of running away with it with options over 200 horsepower and a standard automatic transmission. But Subaru has invested a lot of time and money into the 2.5 and also the CVT transmission. So I understand why they stick with it, but I would really like to see some options, especially at the price ranges we're talking about for the Limited and the Wilderness. In conclusion, I did find my time with the Subaru Crosstrek Sport enjoyable, and I understand now why it is such a hot commodity. Although I do find that the engine and transmission need just a little bit more pep in their step at times, I did actually enjoy my time with it, driving it around probably 300-400 miles, and I understand why it's such a hot commodity because it is a comfortable vehicle and it offers standard all-wheel drive and off-road capability. Now, who do I think the Crosstrek Sport is for? I think it's for the adventure-minded person that is going to be going off-road occasionally and just spontaneously. If you're driving down the highway going on a trip and you see a hike that you want to do, or maybe like a lake access or something like that, and it's a gravel road, a dirt road, and there's some rocks in the way, any Subaru Crosstrek in the lineup is going to do the job. Now, if you want to get crazy and go for the Wilderness or even the Sport, those give plenty of off-road capability to really accomplish most things that you are going to encounter off the beaten path. If you're not really going on a specific off-road trail that requires high clearance 4x4, you're going to be just fine in any of the Subaru Crosstrek lineup, especially the Sport or the Wilderness. If you're not finding yourself off-road very much or at all, the Subaru Crosstrek lineup, especially the Sport, offer a lot of on-road capabilities that will make it a great daily driver for you. So if you are an adventure seeker or just a daily driver, this is a good option for you depending on your price range. There are a lot of options in this class, but the Subaru Crosstrek is obviously going to be the top dog. And so keep your options open, and there is a lot to choose from, but the Subaru Crosstrek Sport was an enjoyable vehicle for me, and it is a off-road capable choice if you are looking in such segment. Thanks for watching Auto Buyer's Guide. My name is Nick, and I appreciate you guys watching my review of the Crosstrek Sport. And until the next review, I will see you guys then.